Each night, there are close to 52,000 people sleeping in New York City homeless shelters. We found one organization helping to ease the burden. Created with a mission to end homelessness in the United States, Urban Pathways began on the west side of Manhattan in 1975 by providing services to those in need of stable housing.
The services that we offer really depend on the needs of our population. It's not a monolithic population. There are some individuals who need a high level of support. They've been on the street for 5-10 years at times. Issues around managing their money, understanding their symptoms, handling their medication, just socialization skills. There are other people who go through that transition rather quickly, and then the challenge becomes finding housing that is affordable in the community for them.
And that is where Urban Pathways separates itself from the pack. Executive Director Frederick Shack describes the program as a safe haven instead of a shelter.
So what we do through the Safe Haven model is to approach those individuals and indicate to them that we'll provide them with a place to stay. They don't have to commit to their sobriety. They don't have to commit to their recovery. They don't have to get into mental health treatment as a precondition of coming indoors. It's a lot easier to engage them once they're indoors.
You have a lot of people who were on the streets for years on end and very resistant to going to the shelters and would rather work with you from the street than going in.
And once that trust is built, Mr. Shack and his team work on the next phase of reintegration.
A lot of times it wasn't about the convincing. It's just really about creating a relationship with them.
There's always good people out there, and if you just forget about your pride sometimes. Before I was even staying in the car, and this is a blessing, a great blessing.
It is through state funding and private investors that Urban Pathways is able to keep providing aid with low-income housing.
So if you can figure out a way to make housing more affordable, and you can do that very simply through the provision of a subsidy, then 80% of the families that are in the shelter system today could be housed tomorrow.
Ain't nothing like your own. I felt like I was in paradise. So when I first seen it, right, I said, yeah, I finally got me a spot to call my own.
And while permanent housing is important to residents, developers are pushing back due to the prime real estate locations.
When you initially approach a community and you talk about housing for the chronically homeless, generally there are some concerns about, their safety, whether or not people are going to be hanging out in front of the building, whether it's going to reduce or detract from the property values for people who have invested in their homes. The reality is that there's been a substantial amount of research here in New York City that demonstrates that the addition of new construction in the form of supportive housing can actually add value to communities. And when projects are well managed and well maintained, the clients that we serve blend very nicely into the communities that they're in.
And while Urban Pathways is continuing to expand and develop affordable housing options, Frederick Shack will continue to advocate for people who are in need.
Ideally, and I say with I guess some optimism, that I'd like to we'd like to be part of ending homelessness. And that may be very ambitious, but I think we can take a big bite out of it. 5 years from now, Urban Pathways will have 1,000+ units of affordable housing, and I'd rather refer to it as that, because whether you are just poor and you need a place to live, or whether you're poor and you have challenges, you need a place to live, we should be able to provide that as a society. Being in the richest country in the world, having all the resources that we have, we can solve these problems, and we really want to be a part of that.
We'll be right back. Promotional consideration provided by